Hi there, this is a quick video explanation of Bleeding Kansas. So you'll recall that at this point we've had two attempted compromises to settle the issue of slavery in the West. The first was the Missouri Compromise in 1820, which added Missouri as a slave state and Maine as a free state, and drew the Missouri Compromise line to decide where slavery would and would not be allowed throughout the rest of the Louisiana Territory. Then in 1850, we had the Compromise of 1850, which organized two new territories, the Utah Territory, the New Mexico Territory, both of which would allow slavery based on popular sovereignty. So the people in those new territories would vote on the issue, and it added the state of California as a free state. It also added a fugitive slave law, which we'll come back to later. So now in 1854, we're going to have the Kansas Nebraska Act, which is going to further the problems and the division between free states and slave states. So the background is that we've seen these two compromises, the Missouri Compromise and the Compromise of 1850, neither of which were successful in settling this tension. Then in the mid-1850s, as America's heading west, more and more settlers began moving into this unorganized territory, which was referred to as Nebraska. And you can see on the map there, it's this really massive area that's unorganized in the sense that there was no official government there. There was nothing really set up. It's essentially land that's claimed by the United States, but there's nothing formal in that area. And so this senator that you see right here, named Stephen Douglas from Illinois, he was hoping to build a Transcontinental Railroad that would go through his home state of Illinois, which would ultimately help his political career. But the only way to pull that off would be to organize the territory through which that Transcontinental Railroad would run. And so he planned a way to organize that territory to get the railroad built through his state of Chicago. And keep in mind that at this point, this is before the actual Transcontinental Railroad had begun. That's not going to be until the 1860s. And so this is would have been the first route across the continent. So in 1854, he put together this Kansas Nebraska Act, which would take that unorganized territory and split it into two formal territories, Kansas and Nebraska. And he thought that the best way to settle the issue would be through popular sovereignty. So the people in both of these territories would vote on the issue of slavery and decide for themselves, would they be free territory or slave territory. This was politically smart for Stephen Douglas because he did not have to come out and say himself whether he supported slavery or not. He just wanted the people to be able to choose. The end result, though, was pretty catastrophic. A number of representatives of the free states and slave states saw this as an opportunity to claim new territory for their side. And in particular, a number of pro-slavery individuals, referred to as border ruffians, came across the nearby border of Missouri so that they could vote in this new election on slavery in Kansas. And they're called border ruffians because the end result was a large amount of violence between both sides who were trying to influence the outcome of this vote. Ultimately, the anti-slavery groups elected a government, so did the pro-slavery individuals, and so for a time there were two different governments claimed in the territory of Kansas. So a couple of years later, in 1856, this period known as Bleeding Kansas began. In May of 1856, a group of pro-slavery settlers destroyed the town of Lawrence, Kansas. They burned buildings to the ground. They destroyed the local newspaper and printing press. 21 people were killed. In response, in Potawatomi, an abolitionist named John Brown and his sons, and we'll see them again soon enough, they killed 5 pro-slavery farmers with swords. So there was this incredible amount of violence. Over 50 people were killed in Kansas. It even spilled over into the Senate, where literally had a U.S. representative beating a senator over the head with a cane. So it was this really chaotic scene in Kansas over the issue of popular sovereignty and voting on slavery. So the territory itself came to be referred to as Bleeding Kansas. Eventually, down the road, Kansas would enter as a free state, but by this point, some people point to the territory of Kansas and this time as the actual start of the Civil War. So these three maps show us, as time passes, the growth and the expansion of the opportunity for slavery and territories. So those purple areas, those are territories that are open to slavery under the Missouri Compromise, then the Compromise of 1850, and then the Kansas Nebraska Act in 1854. I hope this helps you understand Bleeding Kansas and some of the main causes of the American Civil War. Thanks for watching.